Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Today we're just playing some Diablo 2 Median XL. I'm playing on the character from the Mangg co-op LP. Just doing a little gearing up. Not trying to get ahead of the others, just going back to get some gear. Yeah. So, let us begin. This week on this channel, let's start with this channel. We had, of course, the Mangg co-op LP, which is, it's really just me, Ziggy, and Lego. You know, Mert was on board from the start. You know, I asked him before we began, he was all down for it, but then he apparently had some problems getting the mod installed, which he apparently eventually figured out, so I assume the problem was with him just not being smart. But then, like, he had it installed and we were gonna play, and we were like level 30 and he was level 6. It's like, well, actually, I think it might have been worse than that. So it's just like, okay, well, we'll play and then maybe he'll catch up eventually, and so far he has not caught up. That's alright, the rest of us are having a good time with it. Because our sessions now are going for like a couple hours or so each time, and so I'm having to break up the videos, which is fine. As you can see, my character is currently level 93. We're on Act 4 Nightmare. So we're very close to Hell difficulty, which is when the fun really begins. Really, we're getting to the point of why I wanted to actually do the co-op LP, so it should be good. Should be good. Also, we have Sekiro. And that's going pretty well. People seem to be enjoying that. You know, it's a FromSoft game. I didn't do a blind LP of Bloodborne. I don't know, some may remember, probably not. But for Bloodborne, I had recorded my first playthrough, and then I put together like a montage of it that had to go on Vimeo, so you probably don't remember. But for Dark Souls 3, I'm pretty sure I did do a blind LP. It's so long ago, I barely remember. But you know, blind LPs of FromSoft games, unless you're really, really, you know, top tier, they're a little tricky. You're going to have to deal with people missing things and swearing and dying and just, you know, like most people's first playthrough, it just happens to be recorded. So, overall, though, it's been going pretty well. I haven't been totally shitting, which is good. And the thing is, though, in my recordings, like I don't know, I recorded like 15 parts or something like that. But I actually ended up getting... Technically, I beat the game already. I'll say that. But technically, I got, like, what I assumed to be the worst ending. I'm not aware of all the endings, but I can't imagine there's a one worse than what I got. And I know for a fact there's more content in the game than what I experienced. But I inadvertently finished the game. So my only options then were to go to New Game Plus to try and, you know, reach the other content, or just start a fresh game. One of those is easier than the other. So I had to start a fresh game. That's what I'm working on now. It shouldn't take that long, really. It's shocking how much better I am at the game now than when I started. You know, I spent, like, however long trying to fight that drunken big space marine dude with the giant katana. But on my second playthrough, you know, I beat him first try. And what's more is there's a bell you can ring, the demon bell. You can ring it very early on in the game if you want to, if you know where to go. And this gives you, like, this buff or whatever. This gives you this thing that makes every enemy in the game harder. Which is crazy. But I actually learned about that from Vadi's video of, like, 20 secret mechanics or something like that. And he actually recommended turning it on right away, because it doesn't actually make normal enemies that much more difficult, but you get more out of it. I think you get more XP or gold or something. So he recommends turning it on for normal enemies and then just removing the effect for bosses, which is what I was originally going to do. But then I was like, well, if I do that, I have to go back to the bell every time I beat a boss so I can, you know, turn the effect back on. That sounds like such a hassle. So I just left it on. So I've beaten, you know, I beat the drunk bastard with the buff. I've beaten a bunch of bosses now with the buff on. And it makes you feel pretty good. So yeah, you can definitely feel the improvement once you start fresh. So yeah, that'll continue. Right now, I think we have... Whoa! Holy shit, what were the odds of that? Let me see. We have this one. This is... Okay, so I have one part from that. And then I have this, which is another... Yeah, I'll probably break that up. So really, right now, I only have 3 more parts of the Diablo 2 co-op playthrough to upload. Hopefully, we're going to continue to record, but if we get to a point where I need to upload a Diablo 2 video and I don't have one, we'll probably just switch over to Final Fantasy 15 then. Final Fantasy 15 is a really short LP. It's only like 12 or 13 parts long. And then we're pretty close to being done with the main Final Fantasies, which is always kind of exciting. I mean, it was exciting for me when I actually finished them, like, a year ago. But, still. Yeah, I guess that's about it. On the Exploring series, that little channel. Things are going pretty well. Which is sort of an understatement, I suppose. You know, we average like 900 new subscribers every day, which is always crazy to me. It's always so insane how regular it is, you know? It's just the way all the algorithms work and stuff for YouTube, I guess. But there's never a day where you get like, suddenly you have 5,000 new subscribers, because just a big influx happened to find the channel. And then some days it's just like, oh, only like 40 people found the channel. Like, no, it's always very steady. Occasionally you'll get some boosts, like when the algorithm starts recommending you a bit more. And those days might be like, I don't know, 40% higher than average. And at some point you might drift down, and it might be like 30% lower than average. But these are always very gradual shifts most of the time. There's never like just huge wild changes in your daily numbers. It always surprises me how that works, but that's just how YouTube is. So yeah, things are going pretty good. I don't know if I talked about this the other week, but I went back. I was just browsing through old videos, like old Hanging with Mangs. Specifically from like when I started the Exploring series videos. And so one of them, I said like, one of them I was like, oh, the channel's doing really well. We're getting like 100 new subscribers a week, which is just crazy. These words came out of my mouth. And at the time, that was crazy. Like, that was legitimately like, wow. Because I had gone so many years with just, you know, nothing really happening with YouTube. And I was just so used to that, you know. I had the early dreams where it's like, I'm going to be a big YouTuber, yeah! And then the years went by and it's like, well, I enjoy it and that's enough. You know, like, this channel, right now, is sitting on 900 and some subscribers, with plus 39 in the last 28 days. So in the last month, this channel's gained 39 subscribers. Which, that in itself is pretty wild. I don't know who the hell is finding this channel, who the hell is suddenly deciding to watch it. Because it's not like I have that much special to offer here, but I know the old guard likes to stick around to support me and my therapy here on this channel. But, so yeah, you know, 100 subscribers a week was a big shift. But I also, like, I was talking about the first Cthulhu Mythos video, the one on Cthulhu, and I was like, you know, it was pretty good. I'm really not that happy with it, though, which is pretty funny, because even then, my first one I was not happy with, and I'm still never happy with any of them, so that's pretty good. I've stayed consistent with my feelings about my videos. But I thought it was funny that I said the reason I was unhappy with it was because it was too factual. And I didn't put enough of my own opinions in. Which is really funny to me, because nowadays I am very careful about putting any of my own opinions into the video. I try to stay as factual as possible, so as to not like offend anyone or get into any debates or anything like that. But when I started, I was like, it's not factual, it's not opinion based enough. So that was good. Yeah, you know, we've come a long way. We've come a long way in a relatively short time. And I remember my old benchmark. My old benchmark for a pretty decent day on YouTube. This would be around when I was doing like the Middle Earth series. My benchmark for a pretty good day was 24,000 views in one day. That was my standard benchmark that I still remember. And the reason for that was because at that time, 24,000 views got me $72. I remember specifically that was the equation. Which is not a massive amount of money, but it is real money. I mean, $72 a day just for having videos on YouTube is pretty good, I think. So it's funny comparing that to now, which I'm not going to tell you what I make now, but needless to say, it's more than $72 a day. So it helps, I think, to put things in perspective like that. To know how we started, where we've come from, and the progress. Because, you know, you never know. I could get back to a point where I would be happy to make $72 a day on YouTube. Rather than, you know, nothing. Who knows? But this week, I worked on a video on the class of 76, which is sometimes referred to as a group of interest. It's really not a group of interest, I don't think, because it's not really a group. Nor is it like a canon either. It's hard to exactly describe what it is. It's like a series of connected events and anomalies, really. I don't know another way to describe it. It's one of those things that you'd really like never hear anyone in the mainstream SCP world discuss. You know, like the people that just know about SCP from like Markiplier's playthroughs and, you know, Containment Breach and Secret Laboratory and stuff. It's really a topic for like the hardcore SCP community, the fans of the actual writing that don't just regurgitate the same few SCPs. And so for that alone, it's kind of enjoyable to work on it. Because it is something a little bit more obscure in the SCP world. I think the video turned out fairly well. Obviously, I didn't cover everything I could. I rarely do. And there's one SCP connected to it that's sort of a very big piece added onto it somewhat recently. And I only gave it the barest of mentions at the very end, because it's an SCP that sort of overwhelms the entire discussion. And so for that, I felt it deserved its own video later on. If I tried to add that onto it as well and give it its full attention, it would have easily been a 40-minute video. Which some people don't mind, but at the same time, that's a little long for a lot of people, and I do have to consider separating and sort of breaking apart these topics a little bit more if I want to keep the SCP series going on for as long as possible. which I do. Partly because I do enjoy talking about SCP, thank God. But also because my bank account really appreciates it. I'm glad that I landed on a topic that receives so much popularity and I enjoy researching and discussing. Like, if like Harry Potter had won the poll and that just brought this huge influx of viewers, I'd be a little miffed, I think. Because I don't really enjoy Harry Potter all that much. I would do a series on it, for sure. But it wouldn't be a 100-part series that I drag out. So anyways, yeah, the class of 76, overall, it turned out pretty well, I think. Which, that's good. I don't know if that translates to a popular video or not, but it's good. I also finished working this week on another video of a much more comedic nature, and that is my April Fool's video. You will find the link to this video in the description. I'm giving it to you guys early, so if you are interested and want to watch it, check it out, and I'd appreciate any feedback you want to provide on it. Because there is still time for me to change some things. I really am not utterly confident in it, but I've never been confident in an April Fool's video, so it's hard to say. I'm not sure how funny it is. But you'll notice, of course, that the link is not a YouTube link, it is a Vimeo link. You can probably guess why. I uploaded the video last night, and it immediately got blocked due to copyright, which I was expecting it to get immediately flagged. And it would say limited to no ads, or there's ads, but, you know, Warner Brothers gets all the money, blah, blah, blah. I was fully expecting that. I was not expecting to make a dime off of this video. It's fine, whatever. But I was not expecting the video to get blocked entirely. What's more, it was blocked worldwide. There are plenty of, like, my LP videos and stuff that have gotten blocked. Or, like, Mangg's movies often get blocked eventually. But usually only in, like, Germany or Australia or something like that. Getting blocked worldwide is an impressive feat. I really did not expect it. And to be fair, I did use quite a bit of footage of the movie. So, you know, it's just this automatic algorithm just seeing like, whoa, there's a bunch of this movie here. That's a no-no. Because I think the movie is actually available to purchase through YouTube. You can, like, rent it or whatever through YouTube. So I think that probably is the contributing factor here. It's like, no, you know, we're selling it through YouTube, so no way. No way. So, of course, I disputed the block. I don't know much about fair use, but I know that critique and commentary of a source material falls under it. I don't know how April Fool's Day jokes go into that mix, but I disputed it. You know, hopefully someone at Warner Brothers actually looks at it and decides, hey, why don't we just make ad money off of this instead of blocking it? But I guess my concern is probably the person in charge of that Warner Brothers or whatever is just like they just sit in front of a keyboard and just mash the like declined button all day. Because there's no incentive for them to ever say, all right, you guys can have this. Like, just mashing declined on everything absolves them of pretty much all problems. Because no one's going to sue them. I'll stay optimistic, but at the very least, I'm very glad Vimeo did not offer any objections to it. I mean, maybe at some point they'll be like, whoa, what is this shit? You can't have this here. But as long as it's available for the next couple days, I'll consider it a slight success. So I'm gonna... It would have been, you know, it would have been very nice to just post it on YouTube and, you know, that's traditional April Fool's Day stuff. But since I put a lot of work into it, I'll just pin a comment on the Class of 76 video saying like, hey, look at this other video. And I'll post it in the Discord and on Twitter, and it'll probably get a few hundred views, and it's just... Maybe eventually YouTube will allow it back on, and then I can say, hey, here, look at this late April Fool's Day joke. That's about all I can do. I'm glad Vimeo allowed it so that at least somebody can see it. Otherwise, I would have been really upset. Because it was like 3 weeks of on and off effort. So, you know, if you watch it, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of it. I don't usually ask that of people, but this is a sort of experimental video. What are my thoughts on Risk of Rain 2? I didn't know it was... I didn't know it existed. I don't know anything about it. I did like Risk of Rain, although I was never very good at it. I think I just didn't put enough time into it. Let's see. I think next week, for the Exploring series, we're doing... God, what is it called? Let me look. SCP-3002. Attempts to assassinate thought. Which is pretty funny, because then we'll have done 3000, 3001, and 3002. So that's pretty good. What is SCP-2999? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember. That'll probably get included when we talk about Prometheus Labs. But, yeah, anyways. Just recently got released early access on Steam. 3D? What? That's wild. Hold on, let me look. Piqued my interest. Oh, sure enough. Wow. That is wildly different. It's already overwhelmingly positive with reviews. It must be pretty good. It sort of depends on how good it is solo, because I rarely do anything with other people. I'll have to take a closer look at that later. Interesting. Speaking of playing games with other people, I believe I talked a while back about Skyrim Bingo. So this was an idea originally conceived by Ziggy that he was just going to do like a friendly competition with his wife. And I was like, well, I want to get involved. And then it was like, why don't we get everyone involved? So it developed from there. We're planning to finally do the event on the 13th of April, so it's coming up. And a bingo race is when you take a game and you compile a list of random objectives from that game. So for the sake of Skyrim, let's see. Let me give you some random objectives from the sample board. Let's see here. Discover 5 standing stones apart from the guardian stones. Obtain 6 briar hearts. Reach level 22. That's way too high. He's bumping that down. Get married. Win 6 brawls. Obtain 3 Daedric artifacts. Learn 15 distinct spells. Obtain 20 Nirnroot. Stuff like that. Oh, I died. Just random objectives. Skyrim is sort of an interesting one because there's so many things you can do. But there's bingo races for all sorts of games. Have I ever thought about playing Jackbox on stream? I mean, isn't that like a party game? I really only mostly do stuff by myself. It's just generally easier that way. And so yeah, Ziggy has been doing most of the work on compiling all these objectives, although I contributed some. And the plan was to just get a whole bunch of us together, set up all these TVs and PS4s, Switches, PCs, stuff like that, and just have a race where everyone gets a random bingo sheet of these objectives. And the first person to get a 5 in a row wins the race. Just a friendly competition because none of us are really Skyrim experts. Although I put myself at the forefront, which is kind of funny because for a long time, I really disliked Skyrim. And it wasn't until I really got into the modding scene that I was like, oh, Skyrim's pretty good. But I've started so many new characters and done like the first few hours so many times that I'm pretty familiar with a lot of aspects of Skyrim now. And really the trickiest thing was getting everybody on board with the same version of Skyrim. You know, because there's traditional Skyrim and then there's the Skyrim Special Edition. And we could have done it with whatever people have on hand, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I wanted everyone to be on Special Edition just for sort of equality, with load times and bugs and whatever it might be. Just try to get things as equal as possible because there's going to be some differences because we're not all playing on the same platform. And so I made a point to actually install like a whole bunch of graphical mods to my game just to try and slow down my loading times as much as I could. Because otherwise, like, my $4,000 computer is going to load things a little faster than a Switch, I would assume. But we had, let's see, we started with 4 copies of Special Edition, and we have 6 participants. So I had to gift one person a copy on Steam, and then I have to buy another copy on my PS4. But other than that, I think we're good. It's a small price to pay. I don't mind. And so we did Ziggy gave us a practice board so that we could, you know, get some practice in before the event. And so I did my practice run last night. It took me 1 hour and 48 minutes, which I felt was pretty good. I thought it would take longer, because the original idea was that each bingo thing would take between 3 to 5 hours, depending on what objectives you choose and how quickly you go. None of us are like speedrunners or anything like that, so we're not really utilizing any glitches or anything like that, so it's pretty fair in that regard. Ziggy's wife actually did the same practice run that I did. She chose the same objectives. Her run took 2 hours and 10 minutes. And she's my main competition because she's a big fan of Skyrim. So I felt pretty good about my practice run. The objectives that I did were, well, escape Helgen. That's the free space in the middle, so we're all going to get that. Discover High Hrothgar on your map as part of the Way of the Voice quest. So you have to complete the main quest up to the point of getting the Way of the Voice, and then you have to go up the mountain and discover High Hrothgar as part of that quest. So as soon as you discover High Hrothgar, that objective is complete. Then complete Companion's Quest Proving Honor. So that's the Companion's Quest where you first discover that they're werewolves, and you have to go through that whole dungeon with Farkas or whatever. And that one is actually, that was probably the biggest factor between our two practice run times. Because before you can do Proving Honor, you have to do one Radiant quest for the companions. And the quest you can get varies wildly. And she got a really bad one, and she should have just like reloaded a save and tried again. But I mean, hindsight is 20/20. So she got a really shit one where she had to go to some random ass place to kill a master vampire or something. I got really lucky on my first attempt by getting a Radiant quest to go beat up a guy in the Whiterun Inn. So it took like a minute. So yeah, I think if I'm gonna do that objective in the actual run, I'm gonna just have a save right before I grab a Radiant quest, just so I can decide. Then obtain 3 distinct claw keys. So you get one claw from like one of the first main quests. We have to go into the Bleakfall Barrows. You get like this gold claw key. But you have to make sure not to go back to the... You have to make sure not to hand in that quest then. Because the guy at the trading post in Riverwood wants that claw back. But that's not part of the main quest, so you don't have to hand it in. The second claw key you can get... I mean, there's a whole bunch of ones you can get. The ones I decided on. In Winterhold, there's a woman that sells one for 50 gold. That's a pretty easy one to get. And then there's a dungeon southeast of, I want to say Morthal. Morthal or Markath, I don't remember. And there's a claw key on a pedestal right at the start of it. So that's a very easy one to get too. if I was actually routing it out, there may have been faster ones. The biggest time loss for me was transportation time. Like going from Whiterun to Ivarstead to go up to High Hrothgar. There's like no fast travel thing or anything, so I couldn't decide the fastest way to get from Whiterun to High Hrothgar. In the end, I just took the carriage to Riften, and then I stole a horse and just rode over to Ivarstead and up the mountain. I don't know if that's the fastest. You do end up with a horse to take you up the mountain, but it's hard to say. It seemed pretty fast, and again, my time was pretty good, I guess. But there are optimizations, I'm sure. But since I'm not going to get that bingo, I'm not going to get those same objectives most likely during the actual event. So who knows? It was just a practice. The final one was obtain 6 stones of Baranzaya, the unusual gems. That one was a little tricky. We are allowed to use the internet during the runs, so this is not just a test of like your Skyrim memory. So I've actually never gotten all the stones of Baranzaya, but you can actually get 3 of them in Whiterun. There's one in Dragonreach, there's one in the Companions Holdout, and then there's one in the Halls of the Dead. You can just run around and grab all 3 of them. Then there's 2 in shit, what is the name of that town? It's another winter, no, not Windhelm. Yeah, there's 2 of them in Windhelm that you can just run around and grab. And then I grabbed the 6th one in Solitude in the Jarl's bedroom. Again, those might not be the fastest ones, but those were all that I could grab without going into any dungeons or any dangerous places or anything like that. So yeah, in the end, doing those 5 objectives took 1 hour and 48 minutes. I was mostly pleased. Ziggy's going to tweak some of the objectives. Like I said, one of the things he has is reaching level 22, which is just insane. Because there's no way you're going to reach level 22 in 1 hour and 48 minutes. I was level 6 at the end of my run. So he knows he's got to tweak some things. And he's got some time. It should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm putting in $20 as the prize to the winner. So if I win, I just get to keep my $20. Yeah, anyways, moving on. Let us talk about role manging. Okay, so yeah, Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's a very fun system. And we're sort of just breaking it over our knees. We are not having a traditional campaign whatsoever. And I wonder at this point if I'm even capable of playing in a traditional campaign. Like, am I capable of just playing like Dungeons and Dragons as it traditionally is played? Am I capable of having a normal character with life goals and the heart of adventure beating inside of him, and they go into dungeons and they save princesses, stuff like that, like traditional fantasy stuff. One of the big aspects of the D&D community now is like Critical Role and stuff like that, and all these characters and this great epic story that they create together, and things like that. And it's like, can I even do that? Can I do that anymore? I don't know. I have this urge anytime I play to just fuck things up. Not maybe that's a little much, but I just feel like I have to like go back and just rethink how I play RPGs a little bit. Not that I'm not having fun with the DCC campaign. I enjoy it immensely. This is just something that I think I should do for the sake of the group. I think I'm clearly operating on different wavelengths than everyone else. And I think they do get enjoyment out of certain aspects of it. But, like, I would be completely fine spending, like, 6 sessions of a campaign just playing, like, Sim City. You know, and just planning out an entire town and worrying about all these different little infrastructure problems and economy and, all these little things of just that don't involve any traditional D&D concepts. You know, never going into combat once for 6 sessions or something like that and just running a bureaucracy. I'd be completely fine with that. But I don't think the others would be. You know, when we started the Stars Without Number campaign, and we first got to build a ship, I was super excited about putting together all the ship components and deciding on, weaponry and defensive measures and special equipment and layout, all that sort of stuff. I was super into that, and I was like, and I'm mathing out all these numbers, and we got to worry about power consumption and mass and things like that. And I could have sat there for a couple hours and just done that. But after like 20 minutes, the others were like, and even afterwards, they were like, oh, all that stuff with building a ship, that's not that interesting. It's like, I see. And it's just the fact of the matter that I am a big deciding factor in this group and in what we do within a campaign. The others are hesitant to ever really speak up that much about what they want to do. But that doesn't mean that they're perfectly happy doing whatever it is that I do. And so, the group enjoyment is important to me. And, for a while it's just been like, well, they never say anything, so they must just like whatever we're doing. But that's not necessarily the case. Because, the Stars Without Number campaign ended after Phil, didn't come to a number of sessions, and he finally revealed that he just wasn't interested in the campaign. He could have just said that at the start, when he first decided he didn't want to come to the session because he didn't like the campaign. He could have just told us then, but he waited, a month or so. And now it seems like, he's not that interested in this campaign either. And the others aren't crazy about it as well. And the reason is because this was originally pitched as sort of a return to traditional fantasy. We were just going to go in and we were going to have traditional fantasy D&D type characters, and we were going to go dungeon crawling and all that good stuff. And that was my original plan. But, you know, once I get into the sessions and I start going, I think it's a sort of a twofold problem with my way of thinking. One is I tend to think on a larger scale than the others. And so I tend to have more grandiose plans. You know, in Stars Without Number, my plan was to, like, you know, reform the entire sector and start this new galactic republic and things like that. And so when we were getting bogged down in, like, just basic combat against some, like, desert raiders, I was getting a little upset because it's like, this is just taking up time. There's so many bigger things we need to be doing. But really, the others probably enjoyed just that combat. In DCC, you know, we should just be going into dungeons and, you know, plumbing the depths, fighting monsters. But instead, I'm caught up in running this whole town and things like that. You know. The other aspect is that I think I've started to delve into this mentality of winning. And, you know, you can't really win in an RPG. It's just that's not how it works. But I've grown accustomed to succeeding at whatever cost, and I don't like failing. And so because of that, I tend to engineer sessions that give me the greatest odds of succeeding at a situation, even if that comes at the cost of losing entertainment for the others. And I've always sort of dipped into that. You know, when I would, like, round up a whole crew of guards or of peasants, and they would do the fighting for us. Or I would try and talk my way out of a problem and solve something that way instead of just rushing in and fighting, or, you know, things like that. It was always, you know, what is the most optimal way for me to approach this situation? And so I think it's really come full momentum with this DCC campaign, where I've really abandoned role-playing to a great degree, just for the sake of success. You know, I'm playing as Artemis, but really, that name doesn't even need to be on the character sheet. My name could just be, like, 1, or, you know, like, I don't even need a name. Because I'm not really playing a character at all. I'm just running a session. You know, I have HP, but it's never a tangible problem that I have to worry about it, because I'm just, yeah, it's hard to explain, I guess. DCC has probably been the biggest example of these issues that I'm talking about, because we've gone very meta. And that was always a big sin, and now we're just sort of brushing it off. Uh, basically, we just sort of decided that the world is too dangerous and we don't want to go out there and risk our lives. This is just that mentality is completely opposite of what your character should think in a D&D game. It's the complete opposite. If you sat down for character creation and you said, okay, well, my character really doesn't want to go on an adventure. He just wants to retire in a town and live out his life. You'd be like, okay, that's nice. Think of a different character. that would never pass the line. It would never work. You wouldn't start a character like that. And really, that's pretty much how our character started. Not at character creation, but shortly afterwards, that was our mentality. We decided the world was too dangerous and we don't want to go adventuring and we just want to get rich and retire. And so because of that, we're in this town. And we're still like, well, we don't have that much money. We've got a good position here in the town. We can make plenty of money, potentially, but how do we get XP? Which, again, this is not a discussion your characters should be having. Or really the players. You should just be searching for adventure or whatever, or solving some great crisis that's affecting the land, or whatever the DM might throw at you. And I don't want to blame Ziggy. I really don't. And he is not to blame. Because it's not like he hasn't thrown some problems at us. But we've solved all of his problems through such really inaction rather than like courage and forwardness and things like that. And part of that is due to the way the DCC magic system works, and just it seems so overpowered. And it's optimal, again, to just spell burn and just blow up things once in a while rather than rushing headlong into danger. And so, you can't expect the DM to just be like, oh, well, the town suddenly explodes, and you're all thrown 3,000 miles over here, and there's all this danger around, and there's no towns. It's like, that's sort of just unreasonable, and we would probably call bullshit on that. The DM's there to just facilitate the story and sort of work with us, and so as far as we've presented, we're only interested in just being in this town and staying safe. And so he's just rolled with that for the most part. So anyways, right. The problem was we needed to get XP. And so then this is where the meta part took off, where why don't we start an adventurers guild? And we'll recruit all these great adventurers and heroes. Basically, the characters we should be playing as. We're going to recruit them, and then we're going to go along with them on missions and supervise them so that they're taking on all the danger, but we can rake in the XP. That was basically the idea. But again, it devolved even further from there. And it became, well, why don't they just bring the monsters to us rather than us going out there into uncharted territory and dangers? Why don't they just bring captured monsters to us? We'll pay them money, and then we just kill the captured monsters for XP. This is super, super meta and really should not be allowed. But that's what we did. We built an adventurers guild. We advertised it. And we brought in all these adventurers. There were fighters, there were clerics, there were rogues, wizards, and we separated them and we put them into teams and we gave them like contracts. We sent one team into the dungeon from the funnel that we never went into. We sent them in there and like, go get us the artifact from the end of the dungeon. They went into the dungeon and they brought back the artifact and we paid them. And it's like, what campaign is this? But some of the groups brought us back captured monsters and we killed them. Actually, like Dobbin killed them. But for us to get XP, we decided we had to each touch, like, we either had to be touching Dobbin or part of the monster. I don't remember. But Ziggy gave us XP for killing captured monsters, which probably shouldn't be allowed either due to the way the XP system works. But in traditional D&D, there'd be no problem with it. You would get XP for that. I don't see why you wouldn't. And so we all hit level 2 by killing captured monsters that other people brought back to us and we paid them for. And that's pretty much where we ended the session. And I'm like, what the fuck are we really doing here? I mean, I'm laughing about it because it's like the fact that we put this all together just because we don't want to go into a dungeon is pretty crazy. But I can see that the others are not content just living out this life. And so, we had a discussion with Ziggy. And pretty much, he decided that we'd be able to milk this system until like level 6 or so, or something like that. And then he said we most likely will be presented with something where we don't trust anyone else to go on this mission other than us. And so, next session, almost certainly we'll be going into a dungeon and just experiencing a dungeon. So we're winding down towards the end of the DCC campaign, I think. Because most likely we're going to die, but you never know. And it was a memorable campaign for me, and I had a lot of fun playing through it. But I can see why someone that is interested in just traditional RPGs would raise an eyebrow at what we've done here. And I really can point blame at no one other than myself, because looking at just the last few campaigns we've done, DCC, Stars Without Number, Icons, Godbound, none of them have really been traditional in any way of our actions and the story arc and things like that. And I've been the one that's really been in the forefront of all these things. And so that's why I say I don't know. I wonder if I can go back to just sort of playing RPGs traditionally. I mean, even back at the Artemis campaign, which was the high water, it's the hallmark of our great RPG campaigns. Even that was not really a traditional campaign. We built an airship and we ascended to godhood and, there was some wild stuff in there, but there was still a lot of just dungeon crawling for the sake of defeating evil and finding treasure and artifacts and blah, blah, blah. We haven't done that in a long time. And this was supposed to be the campaign that we did that, but it ended up starting so deadly that we really, I don't know. Basically, I'm going to make a big effort to try and fix myself. After DCC, I think we're either doing me running a short Warhammer 40k campaign, which would be pretty interesting, or Ziggy running something with Call of Cthulhu. We're going to do one after the other either way. Call of Cthulhu would be interesting because there's really no way that I can think of to sort of break the campaign. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are some ways, but it's a lot harder. You're not likely to run for mayor in a Call of Cthulhu campaign. You have sort of a clear objective, as part of this investigation. And you are not an overpowered character ever. You are shit. Which is, and there's a clear implicit directive on every character that they are going to continue to try and solve this mystery. So they just keep going. And that I'm just going to keep in mind. Like, I need to solve this mystery. So I can't be retiring. I can't be trying to recruit a bunch of police to try and blow things. Just go forward. So I think that'll be a helpful corrective campaign for me. After that, I don't know. We might go back to Sprawl, which Sprawl does not help my problem because it's so open-ended. But, yeah, I don't know. It's a problem that I kind of take seriously because, if the others aren't having fun with the campaigns, that's a big deal. I don't have anyone else to play with, so I got to keep these people happy. I wish they were more communicative if they have problems and if they have issues with the game. But, as it is, I think really the only issue is ever me. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. So that's that. All right. So check out the Class of 76 video tomorrow. Feel free to check out the Vimeo link. Watch the April Fool video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of it. We got more Sekiro and Diablo 2 Media XL coming this week. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.